This is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. So, I was trying to find a Dragonlance book to put up here to show you, but you know what? I don't actually own one. I've got thousands of RPG products around here, but I think at one point I had the Dragonlance Adventures book for first edition for AD&D but I had that as a teenager. I don't have it now. And then at one point I think I'd bought the Taladas box set, The Time of the Dragon I think it was called, but I've long since lost that, right? So basically the first thing you need to know in this context of this video is I'm not a particularly big fan of Dragonlance. I think it's a pretty mediocre fantasy. And I think as a game setting, right, as a setting, Dragonlance is not very good for role-playing. Right? Like, it's a setting that is meant to tell one story, which is the novels that Margaret, Weis, and Tracy Hickman, the creators of Dragonlance, wanted to write. And it can do that, but it can't really do, like many worlds where the setting is just a backdrop to that one great story they want to tell. It can't really do much of anything else. It's very different than some of the other worlds, like Greyhawk, which emerged out of actual play of D&D, Mystara, which did likewise more or less, and even the Forgotten Realms, which did come out of a kind of literary tradition of Ed Greenwood's stories and ideas, but he wanted to make a vast world that had a lot of little stories to tell, not just one epic story. But anyways, and also, in terms of the quality of the story, if you're going to base something and basing it on actual history, like for example, Dark Albion, the Rose War is based on the War of the Roses. It's actually just like a fantasy version of the War of the Roses, complete with all the details of things that actually happened there. I think that's a bit better than having a fantasy setting based largely on Mormon myth kind of recreated, right? For those of you who don't know, Dragonlance, at least one of Dragonlance, I think at one point both Weis and Hickman were Mormons. I could be wrong about that. I know Hickman's a Mormon. And the story of Dragonlance, the story of, finding I don't know if it was gold discs or something like that, and discovering the old gods that actually really exist, the real religion, the true version of the church, and all that sort of thing, and the great fight against evil, and even like the stories of how the world collapsed because of falling into wickedness, all that sort of stuff that shows up. There's a bunch of little references in the story of Dragonlance as a setting and in the novels that kind of come out of a Mormon inspiration. Not that there's anything especially wrong with that, it's just kind of funny. But, none of that means that Dragonlance is an evil product, right? Or indeed any of the old D&D settings are evil products, in spite of the fact that now the SJWs have pushed Wizards of the Coast to have essentially declared that everything the TSR did, all of first and second edition D&D and all basic D&D, all of D&D, at the very least from the creation of the hobby until the time Wizards of the Coast took over D&D, is literally evil, right? There are little warning stickers on every product that you can now buy from their back catalog from that era that says these are racist, sexist, colonialist, homophobic, whatever products, right? And so you're basically warned that this is evil in the context of the new wokeness, right? So not a big surprise that this ended up having a get woke, go broke sort of situation for Wizards. And what I figured was going to happen is that it would, first of all, it would have a kind of Streisand effect, that there'd be people buying old books and also new old school products like OSR products like Dark Albion and the Old School Companion here, as a way to spite the SJWs. But that also it would have a cost in terms of the support for Wizards of the Coast, and the more Wizards of the Coast becomes infiltrated and subverted by SJWism, obviously that's going to end up starting to cost them money. What I didn't expect, that was going to lead them to be sued for $10 million or more, and that's what's happening right now. So, getting to the point of this video. Wizards of the Coast is now officially being sued by the creators of Dragonlance, Margaret, Weis, and Tracy Hickman, for a sum that they've not fully defined yet, but it's clear in the document that has become public. You can find it on Twitter, the document of their filing of the lawsuit that they believe that it should be a minimum of $10 million in lost earnings. That has come up, basically, it's pretty clear if you read between the lines of what could possibly be the motives. It's pretty clear that it's happened because the woke SJWs, who are now basically in control of Wizards of the Coast, have canceled an already signed agreement that had existed for at least several years now between Weis and Hickman and Wizards of the Coast to publish a new generation of Dragonlance books. So it's very interesting. Apparently, based on what the document itself says, the document that Weis and Hickman's lawyers have presented as their lawsuit against Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, a few years ago they had entered into successful negotiations with Wizards of the Coast in order to make a new series of books. It's starting with a set of novels, but I think that was also obviously part of the kind of plan that there would be new adventure products that would also come out and other peripheral stuff and maybe even other media, right? So it was a big ambitious idea of bringing back Dragonlance. And it was starting with a series of novels that were going to be done also by Penguin, I think, via one of their Penguin Random House maybe or something like that. One of their subsidiaries. A series of novels, a new trilogy, I assume, or something, or a pentalogy or whatever. There's so many, there's a lot of B-grade fiction stuff that comes out in droves like this. And it was, they'd completed the first novel. It was already in the works of being published. It was called Dragons of Despair, apparently. And they were already going forward with the second one. There was agreements made. Everything was progressing along those lines. And according to the timeline of this was all happening started in 2017, I think, continued in 2018, 2019. Everything was going okay with this. Of course, in 2019, that was when the SJW contingent, the hard left progressives, became more and more powerful within the hierarchy of Wizards, as they also had their allies in the Twitter and Tumblr SJW crowd create more and more attacks on Wizards of the Coast. This is the insidiousness of the process, right? Is that first you have SJWs create false hysteria, false scandals that they would then attack, things that they get outraged about, that everybody else is now supposed to be outraged about. And those things are meant to put negative press on Wizards. And then the people on the inside say, well, look, we have to hire more of our kind of people. You have to give these people promotions. They have to move ahead so that we, the woke people, will know how to fix this. We have to obey the demands of these guys on Twitter. They're super powerful. They're not. There's like 8 of them, right? Like this, I don't know. There's maybe a dozen seriously dedicated people and then another 100 or 2 marginally dedicated people, and then maybe 1,000 or 2 people that just kind of retweet and like the stuff that these people do. They're 8% of the population, just like they're 8% of any part of the population. That means 92% of the population hate them. The other 8%, the SJW extremists, the progressive Stalinist left, right? They are very much despised, but they're very good at organizing and of giving the impression of being this overwhelming wave of protest that scares boomers in big business into doing really stupid things that only make it worse for them. Because, of course, the more of these people come in, the more they change the product, the more that the demand becomes to make the changes greater. So much so that it came to the point that in, I don't remember if it was late 2019 or already 2020 by then, Wizards of the Coast eventually caved into the demands with ridiculous claims about things in Oriental Adventures and I don't know what else. They caved into the demand to officially declare their own products evil, right? Their own products to be racist and homophobic and bigoted and I don't know what else, right? Anti-trans, trans-exclusionist, that's it, anti-diversity, imperialist, whatever, right? To put these labels on all their old products, the products that made D&D, right? Like they're essentially saying these products are evil. Therefore, the people that made these products were also evil, obviously. And the people who like these products are evil. And you know, these are people that they want to get rid of. Right? Now, keep in mind, again, this is 8% of the population that have taken over and done this, which they're now doing against the other, maybe not 92%, because you've got a significant percentage of 5th edition gamers, people that are buying the new D&D products, are people who never played the older editions, right? But anybody who played the older edition is now being told this game that you love, this book that you love, this adventure that was better than any goddamn thing that Wizards of the Coast has ever published is actually, you know, white supremacist propaganda or something like that, right? It's evil, right? So basically, they're saying, you know, if they've said Dragonlance is an evil, you know, Nazi literature, right? Then clearly the people that made it are evil Nazis or something like that, right? So therefore, Weis and Hickman are, right? And you see in the document that they said this all changed. At one point in 2019, the people that were in charge of our, the creative part of Wizards of the Coast that had been really helpful in all our processes with Random House with Penguin or whatever it was to make these novels, and that everything looked like it was going really well. Those people got removed and replaced with other people, some of which are very controversial in and of themselves. You know, one of them has written a book that is now, that some people on the left find questionable. Probably is. It's you know, it's one of these Me Too sort of things, but you know, but they're obviously super woke people, right? And they're people. Oh, here's Big Chungus. Big Chungus, let me tell you, is not happy about this. Big Chungus is actually something of a Dragonlance fan because she feels a lot of empathy with dragons. She thinks of herself as a gigantic beast as well. So anyway. So, you know, these they replaced normal people that worked for Wizards, let's put it that way, with a pair of progressive left male feminists or something like that, right, that are also, you know, probably secret creeps. And these guys immediately started to say, no, you have to change this, you have to change that, this thing is stereotypical, this thing is bigoted, you have to alter the novel and do this and that, right? Now, here's the thing. According to the lawsuit documentation presented by Weis and Hickman, they changed everything that was asked of them, right? Because let's consider this, right? I'm pretty sure that neither Weis nor Hickman are Trump voters, right? They're not, you know, never mind that obviously they're not the white supremacists that the SJW D&D people are trying to make out all old school gamers to be, right? Or anything like that. But these people probably aren't even conservatives, right? Like, yes, Hickman is a Mormon, so he might be slightly more conservative in some ways than certain other people who've written for D&D. But I think that they are probably basically moderate left boomer Democrats, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that they voted for Bill Clinton. I'm pretty sure that, you know, Margaret Weis is certainly, you know, because we know more about her, she's been more active in recent years, Margaret Weis Productions and all this. You know, she's a progressive type, right? But you know, she's obviously just not progressive enough for them, because to them, the entire old regime has to disappear. They want a year zero. They want to destroy everything that was in the past, and that's what makes them happy, right? So she wasn't progressive enough for the demands of the SJW crowd, and you know this because they kept changing everything that was asked of them into something more diverse, more woke, whatever. They removed anything that these people found questionable. They tried to their policy was not to argue, but they entered into full and total surrender, submission, and collaboration. And the SJWs thanked them for that by shooting them through the head anyways, right? They finally, you know, after the SJWs kept making more and more demands, all of which Weis and Hickman submitted to and agreed to. At one point, they made a meeting, and at that meeting, they just said, you know what, we're canceling the project. Fuck you, right? That's what they did. So the point, it was very clear that the extreme leftists did not want Dragonlance to change or become more woke. So there's no way it can become more woke enough. In a way, even though, as I say, it's very mediocre, in some ways it's probably to them one of the worst settings imaginable. Because, you know, the Forgotten Realms is kind of like this slightly, nowadays, very blasé sword and sorcery. And the old, you know, the first edition Forgotten Realms was actually pretty cool. It was pretty good sword and sorcery. you can do something with that. You can do something with some of the other settings. You know, they don't, let me make it clear. The SJWs don't like any of the old D&D stuff. They don't like D&D. They want D&D to stop existing. That is their ultimate goal, right? They hate role-playing games in general. They don't really want these things to happen. They're obstacles in the way of the revolution, right? But along the way, there are things that are more dangerous to them than others. And one of the things you can say about Dragonlance is that it's a classic morality tale, good versus evil, right? It has the idea of gods that are definably good and a true versus fake religion. It has people fighting against a definable and clear evil. It's not shades of gray, right? It's very obvious stories of good and evil, moralistic in the very classic sense of traditional Western myth. And so that makes it impossible to abide. It cannot be allowed to exist for the SJWs. So finally, they figured, I think their goal was really to keep making more ridiculous demands on Weis and Hickman until one of them said, no, that's enough, we're not doing this. And that would be the excuse to cancel the contract. But instead they just dropped the contract, which they were not allowed to do apparently. Right? They actually, the way they did it was supposedly a legal technicality that they're trying to pull, where they said, okay, we're not actually going to cancel the contract, we're just going to refuse to approve any further development, including the current draft of the first book. We're going to refuse to approve it, and we're not going to disapprove of it, right? So therefore, it'll never come out because they need that approval as part of the contract, right? Which apparently they also can't do because the contract clearly stipulates that they have to give within a reasonable time the changes that they demand. And so yeah, long story short, I think it's very likely that Weis and Hickman are going to make a shitload of money out of all this. They're going to, besides the sympathy vote of just about everybody, except again the 8% that everyone else hates. If you're an SJW listening, you know this in your heart of hearts. You are despised by everyone, and one day you're going to get what you fucking deserve. But for the rest of us, we're going to sympathize with Weis, but even I sympathize with them. I know that they're probably, they voted for Hillary, I'm pretty sure. I know Weis did. Pretty sure Hickman did. They're in no way people that are, conservative and anarcho-capitalists or any, cultural libertarians. They don't believe in any of that stuff. But it's an example of just how extreme the SJW left has become. To them, some people like this, like Margaret Weis, right? Margaret Weis, the pioneering woman in gaming, right? That's also a problem for them, of course, because they want to pretend that there were no women in gaming. Gaming was a horrible place. If you tried to enter a gaming group, you would, be raped or something. So there were no women that ever gamed before SJWs came in and allowed that to happen, right? Which is a complete lie. But anyways, here she was, somebody that should be kind of an icon, I guess, of progressivism in gaming. And instead, she is now being cancel cultured out of the hobby by these people, right? So it's gonna go very well for them because they basically decided we're going to cancel this and we don't care what the consequences are. Now I believe them that they don't care in Wizards of the Coast what the consequences are. I'm wondering if Hasbro will care. Hasbro is, it's a mega corporation. It's one of the biggest companies in the world. Hasbro is probably going to have to kind of deal with these guys. I think that's probably what's going to happen. They're going to give them maybe not 10 million, maybe 10 million, maybe something close to 10 million. They're going to give them a bunch of money to make up for all the potential revenue that they've lost from this series of books and games and other products that they were planning to release that now Wizards has broken contract on. But I wonder how much Hasbro has to see before they finally figure out that Wizards is being increasingly run by a gang of lunatics who actually are actively trying to run not just that company, but the entire RPG hobby into the ground on the principle that they despise capitalism. You ask them, they'll say, we despise capitalism, right? They despise everything traditional about gaming. They despise everybody who was part of the traditional audience of gaming. Right? They hate you, and they hate everything about you and your games and everything you like, right? And so there's got to still be people in Hasbro, one of the largest corporations in the world, that must care about money. At some point, they must figure out that this is not, that whatever lies, because this is SJWs will lie to them and say, oh, no, but you're going to make more money from diversity because after we get rid of all these horrible racist gamers, then we're going to get, there'll be millions of Samoans just waiting to play, right? And a bunch of the disabled black lesbian gamers who never played before are going to be playing now because they were, it was just the only reason they weren't playing before was because, they didn't like the smelly gamers that were there, right? But they were, they're a natural audience for this sort of game. Right. Yeah, I know that there were already some black, lesbian, disabled gamers that were playing, but they were the bad ones. Those ones are actually secretly, white nationalists. So they have to go too. But we're going to bring in the good ones that will come in, and there'll be more of them than there ever was, and it'll go great. Just ask Marvel Comics how well it's gone for them, right? They could tell you that it's perfect. Or Gillette, like Gillette, after their ads, obviously you ended up having millions of women and low testosterone men who can't grow beards buying Gillette products, right? So they've made more. Oh no, they didn't. They lost billions. Wow, what a surprise, Anyway, so this is basically where it's getting to, right? Dragonlance is problematic for them in so many ways. Even, let's consider the fact that the lead character of the main trilogy, Tanis Half-Elf, is a product of mixed marriage. And nowadays, SJWs really disapprove of mixed marriages because they decided they didn't seem enough like the clan, right? So now, the idea of a white person marrying an elf, a white male, had romantic relationships with an elf, that's wrong because that's colonialism and white supremacy. So Tanis shouldn't exist, right? He probably should have been aborted, which is every woman's right to do, up and beyond the 9th month of pregnancy, at any time really, because if the child is a male anyway. That's about the level that they're getting to at this point, right? And I'm joking a little bit, but I'm really not. Like, look it up. There's shitloads of Antifa people and progressive SJWs that are now saying that nobody should be in a mixed race relationship with a white person, and that white people shouldn't be getting into mixed marriages with, Asian women or black women or Latino women. That's the level of blatant racism that these people have. It's an insanity. These people are Stalinists. They're Stalinists with racist overtones, right? And that's just, it is unbelievable that they're still getting away with this stuff. But increasingly, I think they won't. And I think that this is one place where they're not going to, because, they're going to lose a lot of money. Hasbro will probably be a bit pissed off with Wizards about this. The only thing I'm not sure of is how stupid the boomers running Hasbro are. Like, are they going to fall for whatever explanation that, the people at Wizards give them? Try to but we had to because otherwise everybody hates Dragonlance now because it's so colonialist. It wouldn't have sold, and we'd have all this opposition because 99% of gamers believe in our heavy left socialist agenda, right? And so that would have actually been worse for us if we hadn't. It would have cost more than 10 million if we hadn't canceled the thing because we'd have been blacklisted. Like they'll invent some story, and the question is, will the boomer CEOs at Hasbro fall for it again, or is this the last straw? Where does the last straw happen? Because we know it's happening in some places. Some companies are now getting to the last straw moments where they're finally waking up and saying, you know what? For 5 years now, these idiots have been promising us that following their crazy leftist agenda was going to make us a shitload more money than we were before. It was going to make it more diverse, and so more diverse means more sales. Except that it's not really more diverse because they don't care about diversity. They care about control. It's exclusionist. And their real point isn't to make a bigger audience. It's to kick out the audience of the people that are already getting our products because they hate those people. The people we've given power to are people that hate the product we sell and the customers we sell it to. Why would you do that, Hasbro? Right? Why would any of these companies do that? But they were dumb enough to do it. They could have been fooled. They're not in touch, right? So they don't know. And they fell for a promise of more money. The question is, will they figure it out before it's too late? We don't know. What I do know is, even though Dragonlance is still, in my view, not a great product, like, somebody said, oh, now I'm going to buy some Dragonlance books. So, hey, hold on. Let's not go crazy now, right? It's a better product than anything an SJW could come out with because they have no creative power at all. They're just parasites, right? They have no capacity for producing anything of value. Anything. They only have a capacity for destroying things of many different values, even ranging from something as relatively, in my opinion, blasé as Dragonlance to, the great artistic works of history or other stuff like that. That's all they can do. They are a plague of locusts that destroy everything in their path. And they're going to be stopped. The time will come. This is just one other step in the story. And the thing is, if they've gotten to the point now where to them, Margaret freaking Weis is the enemy. Is their example of the person who probably belongs in a gulag, right? Then who's left? Who else do they have to turn to, right? To turn against, right? This can't really continue. It just by nature, it cannot. It can't. That there's only so much of the cycle left for them, right? Like, it's crazy. Anyways, everybody, thank you for watching this. Please share it anywhere that you think people are going to find the news or my commentary on it interesting, or where it'll piss them off. I love that. And be sure to subscribe if this is the first time you're watching this channel, and hit like on this video because that helps me out a lot. If you want to help me out some more, then I do have a PayPal or a Patreon page that you'll find in the description. But really, one of the best ways you can help me, I think, is by buying my products, whether it's my books like Dark Albion and the Old School Companion, or my PDF series, RPG Pundit Presents. We have 102 issues of RPG Pundit Presents out already, or 103. I don't remember how many. 102 or 103. The latest one I know is the Medieval Authentic City Guide to Exeter, which is an entire medieval city that is based on the real history, the real legends, the real myths, the real monsters of local lore, and things like that you can put into your own campaign. You can use it as a base for your campaign. You can modify it into a more fantasy campaign. It's all there. And, all the RPG Pundit Presents products, if that one doesn't sound good to you, there's 100 others of everything from weird gonzo fantasy, space opera, all the way to really detailed medieval authentic fantasy. You're going to find something you like. So, yeah, and it'll cost you $2.99, $3.99, depending on the product. You're spending about the equivalent of a coffee for yourself. You're giving me a tip, but you're getting a product you can use in your actual gaming. And any single one of the RPG Pundit Presents is going to be better than any product any SJW has ever made, because they are incapable of understanding some of the fundamental elements of what you need to make a good world or a good product or a good game or even a good story. Right? They just don't have it in them. So, yeah, share this video all over the place. By the way, this Sunday, we have Inappropriate Characters. If you're not in the subscribed, go and subscribe to Inappropriate Characters, the talk show where me and Ben Satanis and Joe Bittman talk about all kinds of things. It's probably going to be our Election Day special because it'll be our last show before the U.S. election. We're going to be talking about gaming for sure. We're probably going to be talking about the Dragonlance lawsuit, but we'll be talking about other things, including a big surprise that you guys did not know. We're going to reveal a tremendous secret about Joe Bittman. So be sure to check it out. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Currently smoking Stanwell Deluxe plus Argento Natural.